Hello everyone, this is Georg Stern for PokerStrategy.com, and today I'm here with Insider.
Hello everyone.
We are starting a new Midstakes no limit series, and for the first video we're going to play a little bit live, so we can get a feeling for these limits. So you have not played on these limits for a long time, have you, Insider?
Yes, it's been a while, so it'll be interesting to see what NL400 looks like these days. So today we're going to be playing on the iPoker network.
Yes, and as the series continues we will also be showing you other, deeper types of content. But while we are doing this, we of course will make sure that we have your interests in mind. So, in this first video we are going to be trying to beat iPoker live.
Yeah, and we will definitely have some session analysis videos in this series too.
That is correct. The only other thing has to be said right now is the tables at the moment, they are probably not so good, but you know, we are doing this for our dear poker strategy community, so it's okay.
Right, now all we have are NL400 regs at the tables. It will be interesting to play against them.
And it's possible bottom left table's not so bad after all. I think this guy deserves to get marked green. Judging by his stats right now, we will have to see what happens later, of course.
Yep, and we have an interesting spot top left. I would check raise if he had 100 big blinds in his stack. Otherwise it doesn't make sense because I don't think he'll fold a top pair with his stack.
You say top left?
Yes, on the flop. If he made the same small bet he just made with 100 big blinds, then I'd almost always check raise. It's just hard for him to have something strong on that flop. King-Queen is probably the strongest hand that he could have. If he had Ace-Queen, he would probably have 3-bet pre-flop. Top right, we've got an interesting spot, don't you think?
Yeah, in my experience this is not the best board for barreling one time, if we want to barrel against unknown.
Yeah, but you have a pretty big sample on him. You've got 30k hands.
Aha.
In any case, you can see how he plays and what his stats are, and anyway, I'd bet the turn on this board no matter what. But, yeah. But pay attention to your time bank, because you've got like 1 second left. Oh well, that's that.
Well, his stats, let's see, fold 2 on all streets, pretty small.
Now I would fold when he bets, or I would check raise, but we need to see what his stats are on the turn, and how often he folds.
His fold on turn is about 30%.
Well, that's not enough.
1 second, let me look again. 3-bet pot 46.
Yeah, and 43 on the river. And the board wasn't that great either.
I think it is okay to sometimes check fold here.
I would still bet because you have 2 overcards and a backdoor straight. On a board like 8-7-3, I'd check fold more than I would on a board like 10-9-4, because on a 10-9-4 board you have a backdoor straight, which gives you more equity.
Yeah, I usually bet on this 10 high with Broadway overcards because we have a backdoor straight, but not against people who do not like to fold.
Yes, in that case you can play check fold. So what's his pre-flop fold to 3-bet stat?
It is 69.
Well, if he folds 69%, then I would almost always play check fold, and I'd only bet for value. If he calls, though, with his 69% fold to 3-bet, then he usually has a strong range. Let's take a look at his fold to 3-bet in the button. Perhaps he only folds out of position.
It is 72.
Oh, yeah.
And 4-bet range 1.9%.
Well, in that case, and with that flop, it's a check fold, despite the fact that we have a backdoor straight draw.
You will not kick him out of the pot with 1 c-bet, and I'm not sure what cards I can continue barreling on, so yes.
Yeah, you can only barrel for value because he's already folded all of his marginal hands pre-flop.
You also do not defend pocket 4s in that position?
No. It's not profitable. If I was playing 3-handed, I could still think about it.
You do not even have to do it in position. For example, if I open raise in the button and big blind 3-bets me, when we have 100 BB stacks?
No, you don't need to defend this kind of hand when playing 6-max. You can when you're playing 3-handed, however, if the opponent on your 6-max table is super aggressive, then I play full bet call. But usually people aren't this aggressive here. And I think that's a fish bottom left, so you need to call.
Unfortunately, I do not have a c-bet sample on him.
Well, I think you can lead out on the flop. You didn't bet, so now you can... You want to check raise? You can play check raise call here.
Yes, I want to check raise call.
The reasons for check raise calling here is because we're almost guaranteed to get a c-bet out of him, but leading out isn't a bad idea either, although if you do that and you get raised you'll have to... Yeah, I guess check raising is better.
At least we see that he has c-bet during this small sample.
Yeah, our hand is just too good to play lead fold. We could play lead fold with some kind of bad gut shot, but this hand is just too strong for that.
Top left, you can barrel here.
Yes, indeed, I'd barrel here. By the way, is that the same player? Oh, no, it's somebody else. You also have 30k hands on him. I think he doesn't check raise. Take a look.
I just did. It is 11%.
Oh, of course, when it's 11% you have to barrel. Usually most opponents do not exceed 15%. I would fold 7-2 on the button. Ah, but there's a short stack in the big blind.
And yes, but he's also fishy, so I am going to fold first in.
So what's up with Beelzebub? Is he a professional short stack?
No, he's playing 20 over 5, but it is a small sample.
Ah, right, we don't have a sample.
Anyway, he does not look like a pro short stacker for now. Top right, with so many active players behind me, this is going to be a fold.
Right, you need to fold 9-6 suited here.
And also looks like the button is somebody who likes to call. Going back to that 9-10 hand on bottom left table, I can say that if I had a read on him that he does not c-bet much, then leading out would be good, I think.
Yes, I agree.
But usually opponents, they tend to c-bet too much rather than too little. By the way, he has now topped up to a full stack.
Oh yeah, that's definitely good. So what's with that guy's 3-bet? 13? Yeah, 13 is a lot, but I'd still fold. With Jack-8 suited, I'd probably bluff 4-bet, so with certain suited hands.
Yes, from time to time you need to 4-bet him.
Well, yes, if he's going to 3-bet so much, then you need to 4-bet him periodically. And generally, I would only rarely expect him to 5-bet push on a bluff. If you haven't seen him do it a lot, then it's not worth thinking along those lines.
No, I have not seen him do it so far. At least maybe I have not caught him so far. But anyway, I don't see 5-bet bluff push very often.
But they do exist. For example, on PokerStars, on 5-10 and 10-20, I know 2 people that like to 5-bet push hands like Ace-8 off. Top right, it's interesting that you're 3-betting an under-the-gun raiser.
Well, here it's MP. I don't do it much, but sometimes yes.
Yeah, here it is MP. We should see what he opens, but we don't have a sample.
And this is where the problems begin, on these flops.
Yeah, this is where you start getting tempted because you don't want to fold. I'd c-bet, but I wouldn't make it very big.
At least it is possible to barrel here.
Since you 3-bet in pre-flop, I'd fire 3 barrels.
Bottom left, UTG versus MP, would you peel one time here?
Yes, of course, he will rarely have an ace, and yes, I'd fire 3 barrels top right. A lot of people make the mistake of c-betting on the flop and then check folding on the turn and river.
Well, with this hand and this board I like to bet, the hand has potential.
Yes, we do have a gut shot, we have an overcard, we have a backdoor flush draw. I'd bet bottom left, I wouldn't bet too much. No, that's too much. If you're floating, then 32 is perfectly fine. Because you're trying to get value. It's not like you want to bet 40 and hope that he folds. You want to bet 30 and hope that he calls. If you bet 40 and he calls you with a better hand, then you lose much more than if you bet 30 and he calls you with a better hand. And basically you're betting to defend your hand, plus sometimes you'll have some floats in your range.
Bottom right, I'm going to open fold.
Yeah, I'd fold too. And now bottom left table, obvious fold. In fact, I don't even think he has a flush.
I think he has kings or something like this.
No. He will never have kings here. He wouldn't bet them because he'd be afraid that you have an ace. I think he has a full house, or maybe it is a flush after all.
Yes, it is push fold here.
I'd fold. So yeah, I wanted to say something about 3-bet pots. Just betting on the flop is rarely profitable these days. I mean, when you're playing against a made hand, it's obvious that your opponents will fold if they have air, but if you assume that your opponent has a hand that beats you, just betting the flop is not profitable, because he'll never fold a made hand. Meanwhile, a second barrel on the turn, although it is sometimes profitable, But sometimes people do peel the turn these days, so you always need to fire 3 barrels, because you're giving yourself a good price for bluffing on the river.
You talking about that hand with ace-2 suited?
Yes, and so with the 3rd barrel you finish telling your story. You're basically saying, you're in the middle position, I just 3-bet you, and I could easily have jacks, queens, kings, and aces here.
Yeah, even if the turn or river is a blank, his jack will only be a bluff catcher. Problem is, people still do not always fold.
Well, it also depends on your 3-bet stat. If you are super aggressive, then of course you shouldn't expect people to fold all that often.
Bottom left we have a tight open raiser who made a big raise under the gun. We can try catch a set here.
Definitely. I wouldn't try this with a cutoff, but if he's under the gun, then count me in. Nice! Not so bad so far, huh?
Yes.
I think check calling is best here, especially because he bets so little.
I think he will usually just have ace high.
I think he's just bet folding here. You'll have 6s and 8s and ace queen and ace jack in your range, which would call once on this flop, so check calling is the best option here. And so now, if you just call the turn, then I would lead out on the river if the card is bad. And yeah. But this card isn't bad.
I think I'm going to check push.
Yes, if a 5 or a 6 came along, then I'd lead out on the river because I don't expect him to bet for thin value on the river, especially when we consider his bet sizing on the flop and turn. But honestly, what could he have here? Well, he could have something like 9s, but usually people check very often. See, he checked. So he just doesn't have anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if he checked pocket 8s.
Some people even check with jacks.
That's true, although there isn't much of a difference between jacks and 8s. Jacks just beat 9s. And that's it, really. So what did he have?
It is going to show in a second.
Top left, stringer B opens, and depending on how often he folds to 3-bets, I'd either 3-bet or call. I don't think we have any squeezers behind us.
More or less, but they might squeeze. Also, this opponent 4-bets a lot. I don't like 3-betting him.
And what's his fold to 3-bet? 55? Well, that's pretty average. I'd prefer to call.
Yes, same thing here.
Calling seems more profitable. So, bottom left, what did you have? Ace-6? Okay. Unfortunately, we didn't get a diamond river card. Oh, bam! What's his fold stat when you raise his c-bet?
It's 30%.
Yeah, this is interesting.
It looks like he is capable of barreling.
Yeah, if he barrels a lot, I'd just call. I'd call and shove the river for value. Oh, that's a bad turn card.
Pushing now is going to be problematic.
Yeah, and if the turn was a 4 and the river was an 8, then I'd shove river if he bet. You only lose to sets and king-queen.
Well, you think he will bet call worse hands if he triple barrels and I shove river? What worse hand can he call with?
I don't think he will bet call that often with a worse hand, but in the long term, it will be very hard to play with you if you do something like this, because, well, think about it. What beats you on the river? Although there won't always be value in shoving on the river, but if nothing beats you anyway, or if almost nothing beats you, then it doesn't really matter what he's going to bet fold with, because you just have the better hand. Plus, he doesn't see your hand, and on a board like King, Queen 5, you could very well have hands like Jack 10, or Ace Jack, or Ace 10 that you've decided to bluff with on the river, that you also called twice with.
Well, if he triple barrels, he will either have nothing at all, or minimum, he's going to have a similar hand to the one that I have, so if he is only going to call me with a monster and fold all of his air...
At that point, shoving the river will not be plus EV, of course, but think about it. What really beats you on this board? It has to be a set, but very few sets are possible. Pocket aces too, also king-queen. There just aren't enough hands that beat you.
Yes, but are there enough hands that will call me?
Well, of course, if you never bluff the river and you only push for value, then nothing will call you. But if you continue playing with him, then he will remember what happened and will be willing to call you. Maybe on NL400 this isn't that obvious. Maybe the players over here do not bet call as loose. But it's definitely visible, it's definitely there when you play 10-20.
Well, on 10-20 the dynamic is different.
Well, of course, of course.
And the amount of players is considerably less than over here.
That's true, that's true. Of course, when you're playing some random opponent who... I mean, you'll push king-queen if the rivers are blank. So, top two pairs on the... Oh, wow. Wow, that guy's tight. 18 over 14?
Yes, he is playing 18 over 14.
Well, then that's a fold.
Well, he can bluff 3-bet.
Sure, but he's so tight. Even if he does sometimes bluff 3-bet, it's not worth calling him here. And, what's going on bottom left? Did he just lead out?
Yes, I am not very convinced either.
Go ahead and raise him to something like 30. No, you don't need to make it that big. 38 is too much. You're losing a lot of money this way. If he has an ace, he won't fold whether you bet 38 or 70. Although he probably will fold if you raise to 70. But if he's got air, then he will whether you raise 30 or 38. At the same time, you don't want to lose your chance for a bluff on the turn or river by making the pot very big. My plan here would be to raise flop, bet turn, and then push the river if the cards are blank.
Well, with my value hands, I would also make a big raise.
I wouldn't do that with my value hands. It's not like you're playing Omaha. Over there are some very dry boards where you need to bet big, but over here, what draws are possible? Gut shots with Queen Jack and Jack 10, and club draws, and that's it, really.
What do you propose? 2/3 pot? So if he has a draw, he's going to peel again. If he has a weak ace, he will also peel.
I was proposing 3x. If you were check raising out of position, then you could raise to 38, but usually people bet less in position. There just isn't any reason to bet 38. At the same time, his donk usually means he's got air, and to add to all of that, we have showdown value. Of course, we want to win the pot immediately, but to achieve this, we don't need to raise so much, because he just won't fold anything better.
Well, one of the reasons is because our stacks are slightly bigger than default, and if my hand has value, then I want to make money, but if I want to bluff and my plan is to barrel, then I still get a profit if I raise bigger.
I just would not balance anything against this guy. I'd bet less with a bluff and more if I was looking to get value, because either way, he doesn't know what's going on.
But if you want to barrel, don't you get more profit when you invest more on the early streets in order to pick up more dead money on the river?
Ah, so you're saying he pays on the flop, pays on the turn, folds on the river, right? And that way you get more money.
Exactly.
It could be one option, say if you raise to 38 on the flop and then you've got about 104 in the pot on the turn, then you bet another 70. Well, then it could be perfectly good. I still think that betting a bit less would be enough.
Okay, top left, our time bank expired. It's Battle of the Blinds, but is there anything we can value bet except for Queen Jack?
I'd check call the flop. It's a good hand for check calling because we have a gut shot on the top pair.
So we are representing Queen 10, 9-8, something like that?
Yeah, exactly. I'd bet with Ace Jack, but with King Jack it's a check call because we have a gut shot.
And now against Queen Jack we bet? I don't know, is it enough? It seems a bit thin.
Well, I don't know if he can bluff raise. I think if you make a normal value bet, he won't call with Queen Jack. And anyway, could he have Queen Jack here? Well, sure he could. His check on the turn is fine.
I think he will rarely bluff here.
I guess it's a check fold. On the flop, you could bet, or you could have check called, depending on the circumstances.
Ah, 8, nice. I will look at it for 8. Maybe it is Queen Jack.
Oh no, it's Ace Jack. Turns out he chose the same line. I was thinking that we should bet 8, but it looks like he thought about that too. If I were him, I'd bet with Ace Jack. I wouldn't check. I thought that he could check with Queen Jack because he has an OESD, but he made a typical low mid-stakes mistake. He had Ace Jack, and I don't remember if there was some kind of flush draw on the turn. I don't think so. But there were so many pairs with open-ended draws that would definitely check call on the turn. And he just had to bet to defend his hand, and for value, of course. So he checked, and if the river card was bad and you bet, what would he do then? Would he just sit there with his ace-jack and have a difficult decision to make? That's what he'd do. The first thing that he does by betting on the turn is that he buys himself a free showdown, and that's very important.
Yes, I think for him betting on the turn would be good in any case, because I would rarely check a 10, rarely check with a hand that is better than his.
He absolutely had to bet there. Bottom right, I'd play flop and pre-flop the same way that you did.
I think I don't have to barrel a lot against him. He's given up enough already.
That's correct. You can 3-bet the fish with 6-4 suited, by the way. You'll have equity post-flop if you miss completely. Top right, a good opportunity to 3-bet. You're playing a very loose opponent.
Do you ever think about passively defending a min raise? You know, just according to odds.
Well, you would 3-bet ace-jack offsuit, right? If he raised 3x on the button?
Do I 3-bet ace jack off if he raised 3x on the button?
Yes. Would you 3-bet this hand, or would you defend passively?
Well, if he calls my 3-bet a lot, then I will 3-bet a lot. If I think he makes a lot of light 4-bets, and I can make a light shove, then I guess I 3-bet as well. If he folds a lot to 3-bets, then I 3-bet weaker aces, and with ace-jack I just call.
I do the same thing, but what I wanted to say is that the size of his open raise doesn't matter all that much. There really isn't a big difference.
Well, for me the difference is in the relationship of stack size to pot size, and it's deeper for a suited ace. And at the same time, I can get better odds pre-flop.
Sure, but the initiative that you gain thanks to your 3-bet... by the way, I'd 3-bet ace-10 suited. Oh, okay, it's a short stack.
I think I will play 3-bet call here.
Yeah, sure, you're ahead pre-flop. Also, it looks like this is a professional short stack. He's very loose. I'd 3-bet more, by the way.
That's just my bet sizing that I bluff these guys with.
Ah, okay. So, as I was saying about the ace-4 hand, I'd 3-bet because calling in the blinds just isn't profitable nowadays, unless you have a very weak opponent. It's just that an opponent who is in position can pot control and he can triple barrel at you, and it will usually be hard for you to do something about that. I'd call with 6-6 here, although...
How about bluff raising?
Raise fold?
I won't lose a lot of equity against the range that will continue here.
Yeah, that's true.
He will frequently bet fold here with a naked queen or even a naked king.
I completely agree. Raise folding here is better. Before you could call if you knew that your opponent never barrels, but these days if you call and your opponent finds out that you had 6-6 with a flush draw, then next time he's just going to barrel you to death.
Exactly.
But you have to make sure that you don't always bluff raise the stronger opponents, because you can't always represent a flush.
If he just calls, then my diamond could be clean, but if he 3-bets, I usually fold.
That's all good. So I'd always 3-bet in the blinds in that spot, because if you call out of position because he always min-raises and you have good odds, etc., then when it comes to the flop, he can check, he can barrel, he can pot control, so he will always be able to play his hand better in position than you can out of position. For example, he will be more aware of whether or not his hand has enough showdown value, because he sets the tone for the hand, and that, in my opinion, is the big disadvantage of calling in the blinds.
Well, with ace-jack, you frequently get into situations where he will barrel into those boards that are very suitable for us, so he will be value betting himself in the button versus big blind hand.
There is some truth in that statement. Ace-jack is possibly an exception, but then your range is pretty polarized if you always call with ace-jack and 3-bet worse aces.
No, I 3-bet ace-jack too, depending on position, the opponent, etc. Especially hands like ace-jack, ace-queen, I play them differently. I always look to see how often he calls 3-bets, folds to 3-bets, how often he 4-bets, whether I can 3-bet push or even 3-bet fold, because there is still value in this. I consider all of this. And I think top left is easy fold.
Yeah, you need to have a big sample here. Although I see that you have 30k hands on him, which is quite good.
And shall we play with the fish out of position here?
I thought you wanted to fold. Well, if it's a fish, then I'd raise. I'd play any hand against a fish. And bottom right, this guy isn't very brave. He's flat called with queens before. Although it's understandable. He calls a lot in the button because he doesn't want to 3-bet and to see you fold.
Who are you talking about?
This XXOOX guy.
He has already flat called with queens?
Yeah, he's called once with queens on the button.
Ah, yes, the hand where we had 10-9, I remember now.
Yeah, he had queens, but it's correct because he's telling himself that, hey, I'm so tight that people even fold to my 3-bets in position. So he's going to fold everything when he's out of position too. So what can we bet call with in the cutoff after this guy 3-bets? We need to have ace-queen minimum.
If he now exploits his image, it's all going to come back full circle because he will think that, oh, he's so tight, nobody can possibly re-raise him.
Well, it will get somehow reflected in the numbers. I think you also want to play a bit looser in these games because right now there aren't enough fish that will pay you off if you play it tight, especially if there are plenty of regs at the table. You just won't make any money if you're too tight. But it's perfectly possible that this XXOOX guy plays 16 tables at once, and that's the reason he's so tight.
Yes, if he also managed to find 16 tables on iPoker.
Yeah, I checked. He grinds NL200. By the way, I read recently that there are now tables on iPoker that don't have any rake. Sorry, rather, tables that rake in a lot less. Of course, if rake was to be removed, it would be a huge event in the history of poker.
Yes, but are we going to live to see it? Top right we have average stack. I cannot do anything here because most I can do is re-raise him.
By the way, you do sometimes find very, very good players that are short stacks. A couple of years ago, I saw a win rate graph of a certain short stacker. Even his one without showdown line was positive, and he beat his games with 8 PTBB over 100. It's really hard to play against them because you're forced to fold a lot of your hands pre-flop. Like here, for example, defending isn't plus EV because he'll bet the flop and you can't bluff raise because he's almost got nothing left in his stack. Top left versus Stringer. Should you 3-bet?
Let's see what he opens in middle position. It is 23%. I think we can just call his range.
Sure, we can just call. I'd 3-bet with something like King 10 off, Queen Jack off. You can call with King Queen. I'd probably 3-bet King Jack off too, and I'd call with Queen Jack suited. On the flop, I'd bluff raise immediately if he bets because you have 2 overcards, a backdoor flush, and it's very hard for him to play out of position.
We almost have a monster.
He's probably check calling now.
He probably has ace high.
Yeah, when it comes to 3-bets, King Queen is just too good to 3-bet. King Queen off, I mean. Everything else can be 3-bet. King Jack, Jack Queen. But if they are suited, then it's better to call. Bottom left, I'd also bet about 16, maybe 15.
We don't have to balance anything when playing him. Otherwise, if we think about how much I'd bet if I had a value hand.
Yeah, you're right. But now I'd bet the turn.
Yeah, bet turn and check river, I think.
It would be very good to bet 18 here, because if you bet more, then I think that he will fold everything worse. I wouldn't bet 38, for example. Betting 18 is good, because...
Well, I do want to make money here.
Well, I don't know. 33? You think he will call 33 with a 9?
Well, I am definitely hoping he will.
I don't know. I think he will fold a 9 to your 32 euro bet. It's just too expensive. And now there's a jack on the turn, another overcard. If a gut shot plus pair was possible, then maybe, but otherwise you just bet too much. If you bet less than he would call, I think that you'll learn all of this if you play Omaha for a while. Over there, if you have 2 bottom pairs, or really any 2 pairs that you will easily bet fold the turn with, because you don't want to give your opponent a free showdown because you see him as having a draw in a lot of cases. So with these hands, you bet half pot on the turn, or even less against weak players.
Well, I think he will frequently peel with these draws, even with his bet sizing. I understand that Jack is not the best card for a light peel, but with a 9 he might say that no draws have completed.
Yes, if he has a draw, then we can almost bet pot.
I think a lot of worse hands can still call a half pot bet. Bottom right we get min raised by unknown.
Yeah, and we don't have any reads on him.
This is just a call. I cannot play 3-bet push after a min raise. If he were to 4-bet it would be too expensive.
I'd lead out on this flop. I'd even play check raise, one of those options. I don't like check calling. And now I'd bet the turn.
We will probably make better ace-high hands fold.
And if he calls, he probably has something like a 6.
Or ace-king, I think. I think he can still call with ace-king.
No, I don't think he'll call with ace-king. That's very optimistic. With ace-king, he needs to bet flop, and if he doesn't, then he needs to hope that the turn is good. But the turn was horrible, so I think that betting the turn would be good here, but leading out on the flop is also fine. Because you've got ace-jack, 2 overcards, so 6 outs, and if you get raised, then you can easily play bet fold on this board. So leading out will be cheaper for you than to play check raise, because you invest a lot more when you play check raise.
And playing check fold is completely shameful?
Yeah, check folding would be even cheaper for you.
I'm going to see if I can find a better table top right. I am not a big fan of it.
Yeah, you have 2 short stacks over there, so it's not very nice.
During the last Platinum coaching session, a lot of people were asking about playing on iPoker and what it is like, especially, after Full Tilt's license got revoked. Yeah, a lot of people were very interested. Bottom right, I think I am going to check fold.
Against this guy? Yeah, it's an easy check fold. Generally speaking, I think the European poker rooms are becoming better.
Of course, there are times like now when we are playing during midday and tables are pretty dry, but especially in the evenings, there is a lot of money lying around that can be made. And top right, he played check behind. I think I can make him fold a better pair with 2 bets.
Yeah, I would bet and bet the river too. Pocket sixes aren't enough to go to showdown with. Right now it's midday on Sunday, by the way. I don't think there are a lot of fish now because people have been celebrating on Saturday and they haven't woken up yet.
Top right, I think you should always bet because he could also peel the turn with 10s and jacks if he has a gut shot and then will give up on the river.
That's all correct. And I'd 3-bet top left. At least, I would never call here.
Recently, I have been folding these hands a lot. I do not re-raise.
I think it's a 3-bet in the big blind if the small blind will fold, and it's still a 3-bet in the small blind. Of course, I'd make sure that my 3-bet stats aren't all over the top.
And we have another interesting spot, top left.
Yeah, well, it's nothing scary. You can bet the flop. I think a weak ace like ace-5 suited that I could 3-bet. I would check here. Of course, we need to look at his stats. If, for example, his fold to 3-bet is 80%, then I wouldn't even bet the flop.
And bottom right, he should also have an open raise fold range, even though he's so tight. So I took a look and I saw that he folds 60% from most positions. So we just taking the pot down. I'm not usually gonna re-raise, but a hand like Jack 10 is fairly suitable.
Yeah, I agree. So, generally speaking, everything is pretty smooth here on iPoker.
Yeah, it's not bad. Maybe one day they will make a new time bank, then it's going to be a hit.
Somebody told me that programming something like a time bank is actually very, very hard. I was surprised that you can't just take a time bank from another room, but turns out copyright laws affect that too. Oh, that's definitely a call bottom left. The opponent is fishy and he 3-bets so fast.
And we have some odds.
Come on. Oh no, we didn't hit. Oh well. At least we have a backdoor flush.
Oh yes, and of course we are raising our backdoor flush, right?
No, that's just call. And if he has ace-king, he will give up on the turn, or river. I think he's 3-betting queens, kings, aces, jacks too, probably. Probably not 10s. I think we can call once, because if he checks the turn, then we always have the better hand. And I'd bet the turn if he checks. He bets so quick. Looks like he has an overpair.
Yeah, and now peeling would be very marginal in my opinion.
2.5k hands. What's his 3-bet? Is it very small?
3 to 4%.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that. If I were you, I'd modify your HUD. With 4% it's a fold on the flop, obviously.
I think that the half-pot bet on the flop means it could easily be ace-king, but if we think about how often I will go to showdown and then how often I will have the best hand...
Well, yeah, I think that he'll never bluff barrel on the turn, so there's a good side to this call, although it's possible that he barrels more often when playing regs.
And what's happening top left?
Did you 3-bet?
No, I think it's just raise pot.
Well, there's $30 in the pot already.
3-bet pot would be bigger. I missed out on what happened. I guess I'm betting as if I'm leading out.
Ha! Meanwhile, we've got some serious action top right.
Oh, it was there before. He's been tight.
13 over 10?
So far, yes. If he's 3-betting MP versus under the gun, I'm not 4-betting.
Right, yeah, it's just a call.
Top left, this could be a blind battle because people are sitting out. Anyway, I'm out of position. I'm folding.
Yeah, I'm sure the viewers know what's going on, because they're paying attention unlike us.
Yes, but anyway, it looked like a check fold.
Yeah, top right, this is interesting. I think you could have led out on this flop playing against this 4-better, but oh no, I would never call there. You need to push, because as soon as you call, he's going to know that you have a hand. I could call and then lead out on the turn, but that's it.
I will never get to play for stacks with him properly. Apart from queen-queen and ace-ace, nothing will call me.
But you aren't actually going to fold.
Damn, this smells bad. He's going to show us the nuts again.
Call. Oh, ho. Nothing else you can do.
Nice!
Yeah, that was awesome. And the way he pushed 400 into a pot of 200.
Yeah, I think he'll never show aces here.
He might have aces, but still, you played the hand wrong. So show us again? I would check push on the flop. Sorry, rather I'd check raise.
Hold on, I am writing a note on him. Maybe because I will see him again.
You're having a great run. Every time I record a video with you, you always end up with a positive win rate.
Last time we recorded the video, you were the one losing money.
I managed to run into a full house with my trips.
Bottom right, the button is tight, so let's just keep him to ourselves.
Of course, easy open raise here, although he's become a bit looser. He's 19 over 15 now. Oh, he's got king-king now.
I should write a note on him, and then we can check out the king-king hand. What was that board? 10xx, right?
Well, he had a flush draw plus some kind of straight draw. He didn't have a straight flush draw, that's for sure. I think he had an OSD plus a flush draw.
Bottom right, I'm going to peel. And we hit. The hand was too good for me to raise fold on the flop.
What actually happened?
He led out.
So that's what happened. That's an interesting spot. I also think that you should raise the flop.
And if I raise now, he will fold too much.
Definitely. Call turn, push river. Well, we don't push. I would probably min-raise on the river. I don't know. Is this Rapid 06 guy fishy?
Well, judging by his stack size, he's probably fishy.
Well, then I'd probably bet a bit here. Not too much.
About 100 or what?
Nah, 100 is too much.
How much then? 90?
Well, he probably has a 9 here. I think about 80. Just raise what you usually raise. 89 is enough. Anything over 90 would be too much. Yeah, so it looks like he could have just bet with 7-7 here. Although with 7-7 he might think about calling a bit longer. So he was probably just bluffing. By the way, look at that king-king hand. He was actually ahead on the flop. And what happened pre-flop? We were under the gun, we raised, he 3-bet, and we called. And then he c-bets half pot into this board. So he's definitely showing us that he might have queens here. So what can you 3-bet for value when somebody open raises under the gun? And then bet call on this flop. So at least we're not even talking about pocket jacks.
Yeah, I didn't even think that he would 3-bet us with jacks.
Exactly, so he will never have jacks here. What else do you beat? You beat queens.
The reason I just called preflop was because I did not want to isolate myself against his value range. So if I check push on the flop, and also I am blocking the king of spades, what am I going to go all in with that I am actually ahead of? Against queens, really, and that's it. So I just check call the flop.
Yeah, but you're still not going to fold on the turn. You check called the flop, but you didn't do it in order to fold on the turn, right?
Right, but I won't fold because I don't really know.
Alright, let's get this straight. You aren't check pushing on the flop because you think that the only hand that you could play for stacks with that will be plus EV is pocket queens. Is that right? So that's why you think that you should check call on the flop. But do you really think that any hands that you were way ahead of on the flop, not queens but something else, will then bluff the turn? That he will suddenly start making pure bluffs with those hands?
Well, that's exactly what I do not know.
Well, I don't think that he will ever pure bluff the turn. Apart from that, I don't think that he has any bluffs on the flop, or that he has a lot of bluffs in his range. And since we aren't going to fold our kings anyway, and he might actually have the kind of hand that he did, a hand that will possibly check the turn, honestly, I don't know why he pushed the turn. He could have played bet call, or he could have checked. Because he knows which of our outs are clean, and he can't exactly expect that you'll fold on such a blank turn, since he called the flop. So what are you gonna fold on the turn? Will you fold pocket jacks?
Well, against him I think I could.
Nah, I wouldn't fold jacks if he pushed. If he bet small, I might have folded jacks. Folding queens would be marginal, but with kings I'd check raise the flop, because if he's betting on this flop, then it means that he's ready for some action, and while he's ready, you want to make the most of it.
Out of position, yes.
Sure, and if you are in position, then you could...
Yes, but we can see that we aren't even ahead of his draws, and he doesn't have a lot of them because we have the king of clubs. So if we are looking at a tight 3-betting range...
Of course you are behind his range. You're also behind draws. If he also has any aces in his range, then you are seriously behind. So in position, I'd call, but out of position, you can check raise. Or, if you want to check call and go for a tricky line, then I'd lead out on the turn.
What will I achieve if I play check, call, lead? What's the difference?
The difference is that you will get value on the turn from his draws that he might check the turn with. For example, if he had a hand like, let's say, ace queen of clubs, he will frequently not bet with this hand on the turn because he will tell himself that, hey, sometimes I have the better hand anyway, plus I have 2 overcards, plus I have the better draw. Why should I bet? And he told himself that you probably have ace high. So he decided to go all in because he had a lot of equity, but he didn't have any showdown value. In fact, he had a better draw than ace queen of clubs because he had more outs. So it's completely possible that he might check with ace queen, and then if you lead out, he wouldn't have felt nicely about it, and he'd start asking himself what you're leading out with here. But his hand has outs, and he'd probably call. At the same time, a hand like 5-7 suited won't always bet the turn. It could very well go for a check. So by leading out on the turn after check calling the flop, you don't let him check behind. Anyways, I'd check raise the flop, and I wouldn't check raise big, about 140. You could have a few bluffs in your range, like Queen Jack, although, no, okay, I lied about Jack Queen.
That is too much.
True, yeah, it's clear that you don't have any bluffs here, but what are you going to do? I mean, he might pay you off anyways. Okay, let's see. Jungle business, top left. What happened here?
I 3-bet in the button and he 4-bet.
Ah, okay. It's a good spot for him to 4-bet. Of course, you could shove.
No, I'm not doing this.
Obviously, it's better to fold, not get involved with variance.
Exactly, I do not need it. At the same time, I have not seen him do this before.
Well, yes, it's just a good 4-bet spot for him, whether he has a bluff or a value hand, and you don't need to get involved. You just have to admit that he played better here, and that's it.
Sure, let him use his plus EV spot. Good for him. What can you say? He used it.
Of course, everybody has a chance to use their plus EV spots. Everyone gets a similar amount of chances to be the button and raise to steal the blinds.
I'm still not terribly sure that I have to check raise the flop with pocket kings. The only read that we had was...
Look, you're focusing really hard on his hand.
No, now that I see his hand, I am thinking that maybe check raising is better because he could also have 10x that he was bluffing with, for example 10-8 of spades, and maybe he will not want to fold his hand. If we only give him a value range, then of course I am behind, so if I play check raise...
But you have a hand here that just isn't foldable. Even if you are behind and he has aces, well, then he has aces.
Or he has ace-king, or he's tilting. Now, somebody is shoving 130 big blinds.
Yeah, so much fun. Where are our kings when we need them? Yeah, he's tilting like hell. Sure, it's understandable. He had a monster on the flop, and since he didn't hit, it's extremely unpleasant. But the session is going well. So how's your downswing? Did it stop yet?
No, it did not stop yet.
What did you do? Did you wake up earlier today?
Yes, I lost 1k early today. Lost all my flips.
Ah, yeah, that's unfortunate. Those KK hands have to be won at the higher limits, not on 2-4.
Well, here it is, £2, £5, so it's not so bad.
Oh yeah, it's pounds. Well then it's basically NL1K.
Yeah, almost. So, shall we play for another 1 or 2 orbits?
Okay, sure. Our next video will probably be a session review video. We wanted this to be a session review, but it didn't work out.
Well, I like to start a series from live video.
That's true. There's always some action.
Yes, but generally I have a lot of material that can be analyzed, collected over the last 2 months. We can always use it.
Uh-huh. Bottom right against this type player, let's hope that we do not have the worst hand.
Well, let's hope we do not get check raised.
It's never a lot of fun to be check raised by such players, although despite his tight image, you can't fold queen-queen if you are check raised. The main problem is that he will then usually bet the turn and river, and if you knew that he check raises once and then gives up, then calling would be fine. But if a nit check raises and then barrels, then you can just fold on the flop. He's at least got the nut flush draw, and that's a lot of outs.
We also block a flush draw with our diamond queen, so this check raise can frequently mean that he has a value hand. but it is still possible for him to check raise with 9s and 10s.
Well, sure. If I don't have a lot of information on how he plays on the turn and river, then I'd call on the flop and see what he does on the turn. If he bets on the turn, then it's unlikely that he has 9s. Although some people do bet 9s for value. Oh look, top right. Almost a royal flush. Generally speaking, the tables here are pretty good. What do you think?
They are slowly getting better and better. You know, the green people are coming.
Some of the people are making some very bad moves, yeah.
Okay, a little multi-way action bottom right. I think I need to mark this guy green too.
Top right, is that a short stack?
Yes, it is a neat stack, but I still can't hold my own against them. Open raise 3x.
By the way, I've lost so much money to the short stacks. The majority of the money I've lost on 6-max tables has gone to them. Open raise ace-x on the button, they re-raise, I go all in, and then they always either have a better ace-x hand or a pocket pair. Now this is interesting. Bottom right, I'd bet the flop and then continue to barrel, because if you bet, XX00X will fold and Burros will call, and then we can easily barrel the turn because his range is very weak. Especially on this board, XX should immediately raise with his value range.
Yeah, here basically both of them should fold a lot of hands like 7-7, especially XX, who is in a sandwich right now.
Yeah, they should fold a lot here. And if they don't fold straight away, they will fold on the turn. Especially if it's a blank. And if a blank comes, it's actually better for us. We don't really want a flush to complete, because a blank turn... On a blank turn, second barreling will be even better.
Top right, mid-stack defends the blind. Would be nice to know what he's doing this with.
Yeah, definitely. I'd bet. You have a backdoor straight, a backdoor flush, and a 9 could very well be clean. So, yeah. Oh, nice card. Oh, so we're in position here? Okay, I get it. Then I'd check, or do you think he's going to call once more?
I want to play bet-bet.
Ah, okay. I'm thinking what he could have called with on the flop.
Well, a 10 with a spade.
You don't think that he will check raise a 10 on the flop? Or is his stack too deep for that?
I don't really know, to be honest.
I think 30 should be alright. Honestly, I don't think he even has a 10, and he will fold the turn. So, betting doesn't really get us anywhere. Oh wow, that was unexpected.
I just wanted to ask you, what do I do when he does this?
Oh wow, this is really cool.
He didn't even push.
Yeah, this looks very scary. Yeah, you should probably fold. But, is he check calling with a flush draw and now raising a flush? Well, he could also have king 10.
It doesn't really look like he makes a lot of moves out of position.
But what could he have had that he's making a move with? With some kind of 5? Yeah, I think a fold is fine. Of course, this is an interesting read to know that he's capable of doing this. It would be interesting to know what he had. Now that I look at him, he's kind of loose.
Yeah, his stack is a bit big to push.
Yeah, I guess.
Don't know what he had, but in any case, he's not folding if he's betting 3x.
We don't have any info. If he never folds, then pushing isn't plus EV, because that would just be a coin flip against 2 random overcards.
So, do you think it is time for this to come to an end? I think let's play a couple of final hands.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to squeeze out of position with ace-9.
I wouldn't either. By the way, Benzar looks like a fish. I'd mark him green. Judging by his stack size, he's probably a fish. The stats don't really say that, but, well, the sample is small.
Bottom right, let's steal. So far I think Burros has folded every single hand that I stole from him. Here he doesn't fold, but we hit.
Well, here I'd bet and then I'd barrel.
He has a lot of ace-x hands in his defense range.
Yes.
But then we have outs.
You almost always have outs and no limit hold'em, of course. You've got even more when you play Omaha.
So, what do you think? Let's be jerks and steal the blinds again?
Why not?
It is €6.
By the way, I've heard so many stories about blind stealers. I'm not going to mention any names, but everybody knows these people anyway. To be honest, I was pretty shocked when I heard these stories, realizing just how professionally involved these people are.
On heads-up tables?
Yeah, heads up, also on six-max tables. They sit down next to a player that wants to get another table going, but of course, they don't want to play against him, and they just wait until he goes to the toilet or something, and then they sit in and take his blind. And of course, if they're sitting next to him on any other table, they also sit in because, well, they know that he's in the toilet. And this was happening on the high-stakes tables too. 25-50 tables, the 40-80 tables on full tilt, and that's a lot of money.
Yes, of course.
So you could say that they earned 1 BB per hand. So just by blind stealing, you could become the most profitable player. Although, of course, your sample isn't going to be very big. So yeah, that's that. I wouldn't open ace-6 suited here, although that is a fish in the big blind.
Yes, MP and fish in the blind, standard open raise.
Why are you MP all of a sudden?
There is one person sitting out.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's all good.
Well, on that note, we are going to end this first part.
Yes, we are.
As always, leave your feedback in the comments section, we are looking forward to it, and the next time we will be analyzing hands in the replayer.
Yep, and if you have any requests regarding the future of this series, then go ahead and say so. Maybe someone has an interesting hand that they want analysed, for example in a 3-bet pot or in a 4-bet pot, although 4-bet pots aren't usually played out. You need to have deep stacks for that to happen. But in any case, if you have any ideas or requests, then go ahead and tell us in the comments, and we will try to look through them.
Of course. So, until next time, this was Insider and Gefechtstern for PokerStrategy.com. Bye bye.
Goodbye.